This is the All the Hats We Wear podcast, and it's a pleasure to spend some time with you. How many different hats are you juggling in your busy life right now? If you want a more joyful, productive, and fulfilling life, then you need a system for managing all of those hats. On this show, we talk about living with purpose, goal setting, productivity, and we'll give you tips for unleashing your creativity. Sound good? My name is Scott Snow, and I'm a life coach and productivity expert. You're meant to do great things, but you need a plan. Text me at 774-230-3928 so we can start creating your plan now. As you know, the title of today's show is Knuck If You Buck, the magic of music. Well, there's a little backstory here. The song Knuck If You Buck is something I stumbled upon. I was reading the paper, and they were talking about the Las Vegas Aces women's professional basketball team beating the New York Liberty. So this is 2 years in a row that the Aces have won the championship, and that's pretty cool. And so the article was about them using this song, and they blared it for their post celebration, post game celebration. And so this song is a rap tune, hip hop. It's by a group called Crime Mob, and it's an intense song. But what I like about the way they use this song is that it's really reminds me of the beauty and the magic of music in a way. This song really kind of has a negative connotation. Knuck If You Buck in the Urban Dictionary is really meaning that we're going to have a fight if you keep pushing me. So that's the basic idea. Like we'll get to knuckles if you buck what I'm saying, if you go against me. So that was their intent, with taking on the New York Liberty. So obviously a hype song. But what is interesting to me about it, because I don't think we really want to have a fist fight. And I don't think that's what they're saying. They're saying they want to fight. They want to feel strong. So everything, all of the emotions they want to experience in this song are related to being strong and being tough and resilient. So I think all those positive attributes are really cool. The other thing that's the part that's magic is that those good feelings are explored in this song, and they really drag it out. Like the whole song is about that. Music has that incredible ability of taking time away from the situation. So this is a powerful emotion we want to experience, and we're able to experience it for 3 minutes straight. And of course, a real fist fight would probably be done pretty quickly and would not be pleasant, but the emotion that that song gives us is a positive one. So I just found that to be a great example of the power of music. Story number 2. Well, I updated my roles. Of course, this podcast is called All the Hats We Wear. And it's really about identifying the different roles that we play. And this is at the core of my entire business, my entire productivity system, life purpose system, by correctly identifying those categories of your life that are crucial to your fulfillment. Now, remember, these don't have to just be roles that you're playing right now. They can be placeholder roles for what you want to work into. What roles do you want to have in another year or 5 years or 10 years? We can start planning that now and start living it. If you want to be an entrepreneur, go to Staples, get a business card for $20, and you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner. So I do like to renew and update my roles quite often. Whenever I feel like something's, can be really improved, that's when I do it. So what I figured would be fun is to take my last role list and compare them to my current role list, what the changes I've made and why. So my last role list, and I'll put on a visual for the video as well. My last role list was TM meditator, spiritual being, lean body, healthy eater, the dude, a sage, wealth builder, giver and philanthropist, husband, dad, family and friend, happy hobbyist, movie buff, chef and mixologist, joker and anarchist, writer and journaler, Willy Wonka of creativity, all the hats we wear, CEO hats, and world-class problem solver, productivity expert, support group facilitator, sales pro, life coach, marketing guru, and social media participant, podcaster, professional speaker, musician, and music therapist. So that was my last list of roles. And I think I made some great improvements to the current role list. As I mentioned in previous episodes, there are 4 categories of roles. And the first category is the mind, body, spirit role. So for those, I have 4. I used to call it TM Meditator. I kept it the same for number 1. Number 2, it used to be spiritual being, and I switched it to the dude, a sage. So I kind of switched those around. I found that I've started doing this concept from my book, in earnest, and it's called Round the World. And that's where it's basically, my last episode was giving you permission to do some web surfing, but we have to do it applied to the roles. So then it gives you direction. You're having an attitude of kind of loving curiosity with all of your different hats that you wear, and asking whatever questions that come up for each role as you're web surfing. So with my old roles, I started to think, well, does this role title inspire me to research it on the web, get more details, to curate that role? And spiritual being, I found it was kind of nebulous. It didn't really get me. But when I said the dude, like the guy in the Big Lebowski, and to be a sage, where it's a wise person that people go for advice, time-worn advice, I like that. That makes me feel good. So that's why I made that switch. So really, all of these roles, they had to be triggering me to take action to do this round the world web surfing, to further deepen each of those hats that I wear. The next category is the giving and receiving roles. So for them, I have number 5, wealth builder. That's the old name. And I added business strategist to that one, because as a business owner, I've got to take time to see what's happening with the business. As you notice, some of these roles are coupled together. And I just found if they fit well together, then it's a good thing to have a couple in that category. They're both related to money and finances. So the new role title is number 5, wealth builder and business strategist. Number 6 used to be giver and philanthropist, but I took out the giver and just said philanthropist. It's the same kind of thing, so it kind of got rid of that redundancy. Then we have the personal roles, the third category of roles. For this, husband stayed the same, dad same, family and friend. You know, honestly, I switched to family, because you're always going to have that role with family. But you know what? I don't spend a lot of time with friends. Doing my business, certainly networking and making connections. But I just found that it wasn't, also these personal, like the family role and the friend roles, you know, they're so personal that it's almost not worth looking up on the internet to learn how to be a better friend. I mean, you could, but I just didn't find the need for it. Next, it used to be happy hobbyist. I switched it to backgammon enthusiast. And next, movie buff stayed the same. Number 12, chef and mixologist, the same. Number 13, joker and anarchist. I switched it to the joker, because although I am interested in anarchy, I didn't find that it's really triggering me in a positive light. The joker kind of brings to me the image of, you know, very smart, but also that kind of dark side, or that diabolical side, a type of person that likes fast, scary rides or horror movies. So I embrace that role with the Joker title. Number 14, writer and journaler, I kept the same. 15, Willy Wonka of creativity, the same. Now here are the business roles, the 4th type of role. 16 used to be all the hats we wear CEO. I switched it to hats visionary and world-class problem solver. Because I found CEO, it doesn't really inspire me into action. Whereas visionary, now I really want to look up visionaries and what does it mean to be a visionary? Who are the best visionaries to follow? What are great biographies about visionaries? That really gets the wheels turning. And also world-class problem solver. That connects me with reading the news, consuming the news every day, which I am passionate about as well. And it gives you a focus of how can I help when you're consuming the news, which is a far cry from, oh, the news is so negative, blah, 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 which a lot of times it is. But it's all in the approach that you take. How can I be helpful? This is, I'm assessing the situation so that I can be helpful and create solutions, which inspires me. The number 19 support group facilitator, I removed because that's kind of part of another role, rehab counselor, that I did add. Sometimes the role titles are really elements of the mission statement of that role, which next episode of my podcast, I'm going to dig into redefining my mission statements. I have a mini mission statement for each of my roles, and this really helps me discover the why and the purpose. Next, I have Sales Pro as a role. I removed that because I figured that factors into business strategist, right? Life Coach, I switched to In-Demand Life Coach. That feels better, more inspiring. The Marketing Guru and Social Media Participant, I switched to Social Media Whiz and Participant. Again, marketing kind of falls under that business strategist role. Podcaster as a role, I removed because I started to think what skills can I look up to be a better podcaster? And of course, there are many, but it didn't seem to be a pursuit that I really need to focus and be able to research on a daily basis. Really, it factors into that business strategist role or social media. Yeah, the social media whiz could also be in that. And finally, musician and music therapist. I switched to music therapist and rehab counselor because being a musician is core of who I am, for sure. But that's why I added that as a different role up in the category of mind, body, spirit roles. So I have a musician and music soul role as role number 4. So that's just a little overview of why I made those changes and why it's important, why it's inspiring to me. And you would apply that to your own journey for creating your role list. Of course, if you need help creating your role list, contact me through my website, allthehatswewear.com, and I'll get you right on track. There are so many ways you can use this role list once you create a great role list. I recently took the TM Transcendental Meditation training, and that was really kind of life-affirming, life-changing. I see it as a gift to myself, for sure. And I take that same gentle TM approach because when you learn the technique, it is very gentle, very simple. And often that was my biggest problem, is that my teacher kept having to say, it's easier than that. I tried to make analogies or, like try to have some kind of frame of reference to define what was happening. So I applied that same approach. How can I apply a simple, gentle approach to having curiosity about all my roles in the round the world process? So that's what I do. It was fun because I just took a trip to Boston to see Frozen, the musical. And I had a little time in the morning. Everybody else was sleeping in, and I went down to the lobby. I got a nice soy latte from Starbucks, and I was reviewing these role lists, and it was really nice. It's a great self-reflection time. And I was looking at my role titles and seeing which ones really triggered me, inspired me, and that was how I defined what my role title should be. Story number 3. I recently had a job interview a couple weeks back. And I remember being really stressed out because I thought that, I'm a music therapist and a life coach, and the job was rehab counselor. So I thought they were going to ask me a lot more tricky questions about that I really didn't know as good. So I was getting really stressed. And then I started at the last moment, I said, you know what? I loved my work, music therapy with folks with psychiatric issues. All I have to do is display that passion and enthusiasm that I have for the actual work. And that kept me really grounded and focused on the right thing, the the spring of creativity for me. And I think I really did great in the interview because I had that focus. I recently had a episode from my podcast where I talked about a transcendental meditation session that I had, which really wasn't TM. It was my own version of it. It was before I had the training. So I was doing it on my own from whatever I read or, seeing interviews with David Lynch. So it wasn't true TM. And I was talking about how I was having a battle in my meditation session. It was almost like The Exorcist, where, you had a lot of fighting, a struggle, and then a period of rest, then struggle and rest. And in the true training, you've got to have an easy, simple, effortless approach. There is no fighting against yourself or, resisting. So that was a great insight for me. Story number 5. There's a YouTube show called The Outdoor Boys that my sons used to really love. It's a guy who's a real outdoorsman, and he brings his kids, they'll go camping in the middle of a swamp. He was crazy. And he'll camp in the middle of a blizzard and, in Alaska, negative 20 degrees. He's crazy, but he's pretty cool. I like watching him. And I'm fascinated with how he cooks because he makes, it must be miserable being wherever he is and having that little food, having the food that he makes. And he just says, oh, this is so good. It could just be that he gathered a few blueberries from his hike and squashed them in some, hot water, which is actually snow that he melted on his little pot. It's just cool. I mean, that guy, he knows how to make the most out of a little bit. So I'm inspired by that. Story number 6. Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad, I guess, have a new business, Mezcal, which is like a smoky tequila, and the brand is called Dos Hombres from Mexico. So they're heading this company. So they were being interviewed about it. And I really liked Bryan Cranston's view. Like, they were saying, well, you don't really know about tequila. How did you come up with this? How can you have a business on something you barely know anything about? He says, not knowing, that's what we do as an actor. When he takes on a new acting role, he has to fill in the blanks. He has to become a sponge and soak it all in and then become that role. And so I love stories that have someone who's really good at something that applies it to an unrelated area. I always thought actors have a real advantage in whatever they wanted to do. They can turn it on. They know how to emote and to be convincing, sales or marketing, performance, presenting, whatever it is. I also always wondered why magicians don't rob banks more. I mean, they can amaze you with a little card trick. I'm amazed. I don't know. Maybe it's the Joker in me that wonders why there aren't more magicians that are master criminals. You'll also see, really great coaches, life coaches, are able to identify the energy of someone and, the beliefs and the purpose and what makes them tick. And they have to do that in a responsible way because it's a really powerful responsibility. Story number 7. I wondered the other day why I don't use my system for crisis. I had a really rough day at work like a month ago where I gave my notice. And that day coming home, I didn't use my audio journal. I didn't go to all the hats we wear like I should. Another example is when COVID really hit bad, I was too much stuck in like, whoa, what's happening here? And, what do we have to do? So for both of those instances, I wish that I did have the reaction to go towards all the hats we wear, the system. So that's something I'm working on. Of course, I still have my Yoda board with the message, drink the Kool-Aid, swim in it, which means this is really from Grant Cardone, the sales expert, who talks about, you got to drink the Kool-Aid, like when people were being haters to him and saying, oh, yeah, this is like a cult or whatever. He says, hey, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, I'm swimming in it. So as the CEO, the patient zero for all the hats we wear, I need to be the example. So that inspires me. Story number 8, John Bonham is the drummer for Led Zeppelin. And man, that guy could play. He's certainly one of my favorite rock drummers ever. And I was listening to Led Zeppelin's Good Times, Bad Times, which I think is my favorite tune by them. And it just hit me, like, just listening to his drum grooves, the guy sounds like a carnival. Like, it's literally like 4 or 5 different things that are pleasing to hear that are happening simultaneously. Also, I like that there was a picture of him backstage with the band, and he has a Clockwork Orange, the white full suit with the black boots and the black derby hat. And that's just how he would perform. Story number 9. I decided that I wanted to express my opinion on the news and just basically have it open to having my opinion about anything. Now, I didn't feel it was right to do that here because I like to have the focus of the self-development. So you probably don't want to hear my political views and all that and my opinion on everything. But I still felt the need that I wanted to do it. So what I did was create a different part of my audio journal, which is really just responding to the news. So there's no editing, no like, I hope someone doesn't hear this, or, what's people going to say when I do this? Because I do find it funny that people own businesses and they seem pressured that they have to give their opinion on every single little thing. And it never goes well. So this is, I think, a good way, different avenue. And it's just for myself. So I'm getting all the benefits, but there's no negatives. Story number 10. This must be a rich time in my life for rediscovery. Maybe it's that I'm in between music therapy jobs. But I redesigned my daily planner as well. I'll just use my phone in addition to talking. So I'll have a video of showing what I'm talking about because it's really hard to describe a day planner to you. All right, so I'm talking about how I made some changes to I have a 8.5 by 11 full size binder, 3-ring binder, and I have a bunch of tabs. There are 8 tabs per row, so it's 16 tabs. So in the opening sheet, I have this list of my current roles, and I have a place for, it's a grid for my current projects. And that I can see, the project name, when's the due date, and what of the 7 stages of project management that project is in. I haven't completed that yet, but then in the page right before my calendar tab, I have a 7-day grid. So I can just write in, for that week. Calendar is just a monthly calendar, about 6 months worth. And then I have my first tab is priorities. So that is what has to get done today. So in the front part is today, the daily thing. And on the back side of that tab is my weekly. What has to get done this week? Then I used to have a dump notebook or an anarchy notebook, I called it. It was a 5-subject notebook that I just blabbed about whenever I had an idea. I just wrote them down. But I found I was spending too much time, taking that 5-subject notebook and bringing that content into the planner. And it just became, I think, an extra step ultimately. So I just included it in the planner. So I call it Think. That's where I'm just thinking about stuff. Then I have my journal tab where I have stuff from my journal. Then I have all the hats we wear tab, which is ideas for social media and for the podcast here. To-do list. I've got music therapy stuff, ideas for music therapy work. Got a goals one where I'm going to be having a nice checklist that I can follow, my daily goals and weekly and all that. And then I have a financial reports tab, word of the day ideas. This is round the world questions. I was talking about the round the world. That's basically web searches for my roles. If I have a question about one of my roles that I want to look up in the web search, then I'll just list it in there. Then I have a tab for projects, if I have any ideas for my projects. Podcast, if I want to sketch out what I want to do for an episode, then I got it there. Miscellaneous, this is just obviously miscellaneous. Need, stuff I need, and blank sheets. So those are the edits that I made to my planner, and it's working out really good. Like I feel really on top of things. Everything is right where I need to have it. So in closing, I would just like to say that I hope you enjoy the show. I like to have that kind of rambling approach, and I like to talk about a lot of different things. I don't want to be strained to just have one theme for the podcast episode and then just find content to support that. That takes way too long for me. But I do have a couple focal points, for this one. Certainly is the roles, how to define the roles, how to name the role titles and why, and how that affects the round the world activity that you should be doing. And also a little overview of the daily planner and how the roles fit into that. So if you would like a free strategy session, just text me 774-230-3928. And by the end of that, we'll talk about how identifying your roles, both the current ones that you have and also what you want to have placeholders for, the big future roles. And by doing that, we'll unleash everything else. Your daily creativity, your goal setting will be aligned with your roles. Your mission statements, which will keep you inspired and remind you of the why and the purpose, will stem from those roles. So everything comes from that. You're meant to do great things. So let's start doing them by learning the first step, identifying all the hats that you wear. Visit the website as well, allthehatswewear.com, for an excellent guidebook that will help you get through the first couple concepts. And give me a call so we can get started on your plan.